Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, Andre Natera. Today, I'm welcoming back Chef Philip Frankland Lee, Michelin-star chef with multiple restaurants, owner of Sushi by Scratch, Pasta Bar, NADC Burger, and a regular on culinary TV, including Knife Edge, chasing Michelin stars on Apple TV right now. In this episode, we dive into building multiple restaurant concepts, his approach to sushi and pasta, the impact of media and social media, and what he's creating next. Let's get into it. ChefWorks is the gold standard for workwear. In the kitchen and beyond, with millions of wearers globally, they are the largest and most trusted culinary apparel brand in the world. For over 30 years, ChefWorks has been crafting performance workwear designed by industry experts, tested in the toughest kitchens, and trusted by the biggest names in the business. Whether you're just getting started in the kitchen or a seasoned professional, mom and pop to leading franchise, ChefWorks has the gear and uniform program built for you. Find out how ChefWorks works for you. Save 20% on your order with our exclusive discount code. Just enter Chef's PSA 20 at checkout. Chef, when were you here? You were here this summer, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. Do you remember what month?
Maybe in June. So since June, how many restaurants have you opened?
Well, definitely NADC Charlotte. Definitely Shokunin, because that's a month old. Since June. Did I have NADC in Vegas?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I didn't do a lot this summer. Well, I did a lot this summer. I haven't opened a lot of restaurants this summer, which I think is funny. I just counted to 3.
Anyone else didn't open a lot of restaurants at 3?
All of our restaurants are 10 seats. Actually, that's not true. Shokunin has 20. Shokunin is our first non-tasting menu restaurant. Yeah. So we're doing a la carte, 22 seats or something like that. And then the 2 NADCs, one is like, just counter. Well, they're both counter service. One's in a casino in Vegas, and one is in Charlotte.
So for people that don't know that are listening, NADC and your other restaurants are around the corner from here.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I have podcast guests, our post-podcast
goal
is to go to NADC and get some burgers.
We know Shokunin shares a wall with NADC.
I knew that.
Literally next door now, yeah.
Yeah, the burgers, by the way, we could talk about the other restaurants, but the burgers themselves, great. It's like, so my order obviously is the burger, but I always get the fries.
I love when people go, what should I get when I go there? I'm like, get the only thing on the menu. That's what I recommend.
I think I get a Liquid Death,
a
burger, and then they're not loaded fries, but what do you call it?
Beast mode.
The beast mode fries, yeah. And I split those with usually the guests. I'm like, yeah, and every single person that goes like, this is fucking great.
Maybe I should be a sponsor. I'll just every time you can have NADC on the podcast.
Yeah. I tell everyone, hey, go to NADC afterwards. Let's go grab some lunch, and everyone fucking loves it. They're like, oh, this is really fucking good. But what I think is interesting about what you do, so obviously you have the burger concepts, but you also do the sushi restaurants, and then you have Pasta Bar, which is tasting menu, fine dining. For a lot of people, they confuse omakase, tasting menus, counter service. And I think they just throw around the term loosely, not fully understanding what it is.
America has changed what omakase means.
What does it mean? So tell us what it means.
So, and my job, I've always felt like my job is to actively not be an ambassador for Japan. I'm obsessed with sushi, and I've been obsessed with sushi since I was like 7. So I've got, 30 years of obsession and probably 25 years since I bought my first book about sushi. But I've never wanted to, or I don't like when, if I have a Japanese chef, of course, speak Japanese. I don't like when my other chefs try to speak Japanese, on the line, or try to explain the culture of Japan to our guests, because that's not our job. Our job is just to make yummy food. Sushi happens to be the vehicle that we want to serve yummy food with. But omakase, so in Japanese, there's many words that have in English, a word has a meaning. Sometimes in Japanese, a word is like a phrase, So omakase effectively means I place myself in your hands. I trust you. Something along those lines. And so, back, I guess, rewind like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, omakase did not mean tasting menu. Kaiseki was the Japanese tasting menu. It followed Kaiseki's specific. It follows a very rigorous, structure. But omakase meant, like, for example, if we go to Red Ash tonight, right? We grab a couple buddies and the 6 of us are sitting there. Server comes over and goes, all right, you guys ready to order? And we're like, you know what? Can you just choose for us? The term would be omakase. Omakase did not mean I am signing up for a tasting menu with a through line. It meant, can you just choose for me, basically? So when you sat at a sushi counter, so like I fell in love with sushi at 5, and by 7 I was unwilling. I've always been headstrong. I was unwilling to eat sushi if I wasn't at the counter and it wasn't omakase. And back then it was omakase meant, you'd look, you see all the fish there. You would talk with the chef. You'd look at the menu, and you could either choose what you wanted, or the chef would say, "What can I get for you?" You'd say, "Omakase, chef, please." And that meant you choose. It didn't mean, "Oh, I have prepared a 20-course tasting menu for you." It meant, I'd like you to choose for me. Surprise me. But we in America, we like to do this thing where we take things and we change the meaning of them. And we've changed the meaning to become synonymous with the word tasting menu, which is why I call what we do an omakase-inspired tasting menu.
And for an omakase-inspired tasting menu, what does that typically look like in your mind?
So when we first opened Sushi Bar, which is now called Sushi by Scratch Restaurants, the original one, I just changed the name after I sold the one in Austin in, I think, January of 22. When I first opened, I thought, what should I do with, like, how can I contribute to sushi? Where we opened in LA, there was 11 sushi restaurants on our block. On our city block, there was 11. So I didn't feel like, nor was I ever interested in, like, let's just have a place that has spicy tuna hand rolls and California rolls and Jessica Albacore rolls and all the things that are on the menu at the other 11 restaurants on this block. I thought, I want to do a restaurant. Tasting menus is what I'd fallen in love with. And so I wanted to take my proficiency in tasting menus and marry it with my passion for sushi. And so I thought about it as, when you're writing a tasting menu, right? A proper tasting menu in my mind is not when you go to a restaurant and it's an a la carte restaurant, but then you can choose to have a 6-course of like all the things that are already on the menu. It's not a tasting menu to me. Tasting menu to me is when you have actually, like, it's like writing a concept album versus making a playlist. When you've actually written an entire menu start to finish. And so at Scratch Bar, which was our 25-course tasting menu restaurant, we changed all 25 courses every month. We would, basically, the way I designed my dishes, at 25 courses, they got to be small. Sushi's small. So each course would be, the menu would read as one word, and it would be whatever the star ingredient was on that plate. And that star ingredient would have something along the lines of a garnish, a flavor, a texture, a color, right? Now that could all be one thing, and some have more and some have less, but that's kind of how you would build it. And so what you would do is you would take, like, whatever that piece of meat or vegetable is for that course, you would try to not cover it up or mask it, but add things like, think of it like an ensemble cast. This is your star, but you surround him with a bunch of co-stars that make him shine. And so I thought, what if I just do that with sushi? So, like, hamachi is inherently sweet. You can oftentimes pair things that are already inherently sweet with things that are also inherently sweet to bring out the natural sweetness. So I thought corn, hamachi is so soft and so supple. What if I had a little bit of texture, make some breadcrumbs out of my wife's sourdough, and then for me, the flavor of sushi is soy sauce and wasabi, in the same way that, like, I think that the flavor of pizza is tomato and mozzarella. That's the flavor of pizza. Once you start getting into, like, bacon and clams and bechamel, it doesn't taste like pizza to me. So my thing became like the more the more you kind of go to the left. Remember the Alinea book where like the bubbles went left to right?
Yeah.
You gotta compensate as you go left. You gotta go right also. So when you start going like hamachi with corn and sourdough, you've got to add soy sauce and wasabi so it still tastes like sushi. And so as you write the menu, or as I wrote the menu, I wrote it to be a complete thought from first course to 17th course. It would take you on an entire journey of flavors, textures, temperatures. Like most people in the traditional tasting menu, you're going to start light. You're going to start with raw, then you're going to go to veggie, then you're going to go to seafood, then you're going to go to poultry, then you're going to go to game and or meat, and then you go into desserts. And so that's kind of why at the last line at Sushi by Scratch restaurants, there's many meat courses, because we're actually writing a tasting menu as opposed to just doing an omakase, which would be, here's a bunch of food that I've chosen off of the existing menu.
So how does that tie in then to like a restaurant like Pasta Bar, which is doing a tasting menu also?
Yes.
But it's a completely different style.
Yeah. So, I mean, Pasta Bar came about as a pandemic pop-up. Scratch Bar, which was our flagship, was too small of a space to reopen in California in like April or May of 2020. We didn't meet the social distancing. Now, hidden behind that was the first Sushi by Scratch restaurants, and next door to that was Woodley proper. I had like a pretty big cocktail lounge, because both those restaurants, after a while of like guests would come, they'd wait for 45 minutes, they would go somewhere else, have drinks. So we took the space next door and turned it into a cocktail lounge. So on a Sunday night, when faced with lay everyone off or come up with something else, we thought, let's come up with something else. At first we were like, let's just move Scratch Bar next door into the cocktail lounge. But Scratch Bar was like a 16-foot fireplace, a chef's counter. It was so idiosyncratic that if you couldn't take it out of that space and just put it into a cocktail lounge. So I thought, no, let's come up with something new. So we took the staff from there, moved them over, and we had to figure out what are we going to do by Wednesday. So we just thought, well, there's no good pasta around here, and no one's really doing a pasta chef's counter tasting menu restaurant. Let's do that. And Pasta Bar was born. Wednesday night, we were sold out, and 6 months later, we got our first Michelin-star, and that's why Pasta Bar is still there 5 years later.
So how do you structure the tasting menu in Pasta Bar? How is it different from what you're doing in the sushi restaurants?
Well, it's not so different in terms of like progression. It is different in, we're not giving you 16 pieces of pasta, right? So like at sushi, you're getting 16 pieces of nigiri, right? I hate when I go to a quote unquote omakase and I don't get any nigiri. I get a whole bunch of cooked food. Like you go to a place that's called something sushi something, and then you get very little sushi. I love Japanese food, but sushi is what I'm passionate about. So when I go for sushi, I want to eat sushi. And I get disappointed when I go spend $300 and I get very little sushi. So we built a restaurant that was sushi. And when it comes to pasta is much heavier than one piece of nigiri, right? So we could not give you 16. So we tend to give you between 5 and 6 courses of pasta, but they're not bowls of pasta. In the same way that we're not a Japanese restaurant, we're not an Italian restaurant. We use Italian techniques, Italian sensibilities. We use Japanese techniques, Japanese sensibilities. But in both regions of cooking, both the Japanese and the Italians, they are very regional. What you find in Okinawa is not what you find in Hokkaido, right? The style of sushi. If you go to Nara in Japan, you're going to get cooked sushi, steamed. It's going to come in a bao bun style, like steamer. And you're going to get hot sushi with steam coming out of it. We don't know about that over here in America, but every region has their own style of sushi, just like every region of Italy has its own style of food. And so what makes it Italian and what makes it Japanese, beyond the techniques and the sensibilities, is locality. So with both those restaurants, with sushi, I thought it would not be traditional for me to tell the story with the flavors of someone who grew up in Japan. It'd be traditional, very traditional of me to tell the stories of the flavors where I grew up, which happened to be Los Angeles. So I treat Los Angeles as a prefecture of Japan. And at Pasta Bar, we treat Los Angeles as a region of Italy. And here in Austin, we treat Austin as a region of Italy. So in both LA and Austin's locations of pasta, very different menus, very different ingredients, very different sensibilities, because it's LA versus Austin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I talk about tasting menus a lot, and sometimes I have very strong opinions when it comes to tasting menus, because I think they're sometimes a little bit out of control, a little bit. My hot take is I don't know when we went from the traditional tasting menu of, like you said, about 7 courses, 8 courses, to 30 courses. Some restaurants, right? They have too much. And I don't know if anyone goes to a restaurant and says, that was only 15 courses. It would have been better if it was 60. So hold on.
Okay.
At what point is it diminishing returns? At what point is it, what? More is not necessarily better. There's a certain sweet spot for a tasting menu.
As soon as it stops getting better. There is no number.
Yep.
I have had 3-course dinners that I thought were as good as 25-course dinners, and I've had 20-course dinners that I thought were far superior to 12-course dinners, and I've had 15-course dinners that were my favorite. I think we touched on this last time, but in the age of Instagram, where you no longer have to go, Noma puts out a book, everyone's food looks like Noma. Franson puts out a book, everyone's food looks like Franson. In the age of Instagram, you no longer need to go and train to do a style of cuisine. Now you just need to look at what it looks like online and then try to recreate it. And so it's kind of like in music, how do I say it? It's like the cream rises to the top. Right? There are bands that write, the traditional song is 3 minutes long. Then there's bands like Tool that have 5, 6, 7-minute songs. And there's punk bands that have 45-second songs, right? Now, if you do a 3-minute song, you are more likely to have radio success than if you do a 45-second song or a 7-minute song. However, those are niche categories. In those categories, if you're not good, you don't sell records.
It's a great song that, to me, is exactly what you're talking about. Jimi Hendrix, Little Wing. It starts out, I think it's like 1.5 minutes. It's like one of his best songs. And it's like it's perfect. At 1.5 minutes, or however long it is, 2 minutes, it's fucking perfect.
But that's exactly the point.
Yeah.
It's not that 1.5 minutes is the perfect amount for a song. It's that 1.5 minutes is the perfect amount for that song.
Right.
And so I have had 7-hour meals that flew by. And I was like, man, it's over? And I've had 3-hour meals that I'm looking at my watch going, Jesus fucking Christ.
Right.
So I don't think there is. I think it comes down to your ability to produce. And also, are you doing a 25-course tasting menu because 25 sounds cool? Or are you doing 25 courses because you believe that it takes 25 courses to tell the story?
Right. Well, and that's kind of the point, is I think a lot of people aren't thinking about it the way you're thinking about it. They're thinking about, it's better than 18 courses. 19 courses, right? And they're not sitting down and experiencing it as the guest. And they're not experiencing it as like, hey, can I sit here for 2.5 hours and not look at my phone and get bored?
But courses is also an interesting word. Some chefs refer to them as impressions,
right,
or as servings, because the thing is, like, a traditional course is like, we bring out a plate, we clear the plate and utensils, we bring new utensils, and we bring another plate. When I say 25 courses, there was often times when we would bring you something, a plate, and then we would time that as you were taking that 2/3 of the way through, we bring something else that would accent the end of that dish. And as you were about to bite into that, we'd bring you another one. And you would get 25 things delivered to your table, but it wasn't 25 clear and resets.
Right, okay. And I think that's a very fair point, what you're saying. I think where a lot of young chefs go wrong is they don't understand food at that level yet. The only thing they understand is, I want to make 19 courses, and I want to make them as beautiful as Noma or Franzen, because I got the book. And what they're missing sometimes is that they got a lot of leaves on it and some, some foraged ingredients, and they can make it look really beautiful with some shaved vegetables. But it's like they haven't graduated from the garde manger station. Well, you got to cook a little bit too.
Yeah.
You got to have some sauce on there, and it's got to taste good. And for me, the ultimate question is, yeah, that's beautiful, but does it taste good?
So that's what I call under promising and over delivering,
Uh-huh.
or vice versa. So when any of my chefs or anyone brings a dish to the table, the first thing you do is you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then you take a bite, and I explain to them, be careful about how good you make it look or how interesting you make it appear to be. It has to taste better than it looks or feels. If it because the promise is the presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The delivery is what goes inside of your mouth. And so when you get chefs who maybe aren't thinking about it that way, who are just like, that's dope, it'd be really cool to have an all blue dish. And I went through the phase of having an all white dish and,
Sure, yeah.
all those things. But I was still thinking about it like, what makes sense on an all white dish and how does it still eat and all of the,
Well, this is the benefit of shows like this one and yours, and having conversations with chefs, is that a young chef might not come to that conclusion until they're 15, 20 years into their career, but they could hear you say it now.
Yeah.
And expedite their learning curve.
Well,
much
to
quicker.
give everyone at home an idea. So this is year 20 for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I opened Scratch Bar in 2013, so if this is year 20, that was 12 years. So 8 years after I had started.
Yep.
Which I was admittedly, 8 years in to have your own restaurant, that's fast. That's really fast. And in 2015, I got reviewed by LA Weekly and got just a scathing, torn apart review, which famously I replied to.
Wait, I don't know the story. Tell me, please.
Well, Besha Rodell was the anonymous critic. She had taken over for Jonathan Gold. She was the only person who was giving out stars in Los Angeles, and I think we got 2 stars, something like that. And it was scathing.
What's the rating system for?
I don't remember. I don't think it was 3 because I wouldn't have been that mad about 2.
Yeah.
But I remember being very upset about it, and turns out I think she had some incorrect information. One of the things she lit me up about was not having spent enough time training. And I thought, and if 10 years working in 1 stars, 2 stars, 3 stars isn't enough training, you know what I mean? Then looking on Instagram for half an hour definitely is not enough training.
Right. Right. Yeah. Fair.
I spent 8 months in the kitchen with Michael Cimaresti at Providence, which now has 3 stars, had 2 at the time.
Yeah.
Want to be very clear, unpaid as a, back then you were allowed to do that. It wasn't breaking the law. I was there by choice. Held a sous chef position at a 1 star, and worked at other 2s and other 3s, and then went and opened my first thing and had, at this point, 2.5 years of experience doing my own restaurant. And still people will look at that resume and say, yeah, you haven't trained enough to come up with your own food yet.
Yeah. Says who, right?
Well, that's kind of what, my public response was how, and I'll let anyone at home who wants to go look it up. But my public response was like, most of your information, I know where you got this information. It's from someone I have a restraining order against. It's not true. And you haven't mentioned on how my food tastes. You have a lot of opinions about me as a person, but no opinions about the food. How come you didn't mention that? Because I know who you are. I know you're anonymous, but I figured out who you were. I waited. I personally pulled the chair out for you, pushed it in. I personally poured your wine. I brought an extra dish to your husband with sea urchin on it because he overheard he liked sea urchin. How come none of that got mentioned in your thing?
Yeah. It's funny, the games we play, right? When the critics were anonymous. I don't know if critics hold the same weight as they used to, but I remember, the food critic coming in, and we all had the photos in our wallets, right? We all knew who the critics were. It was fucking posted on.
Because we didn't have cell phones back then.
Yeah, we had them in our wallets. It was posted at the hostess station. And I remember in this particular restaurant where I was at, them coming back and saying, "Hey, the food critic's in." And I'm like, okay, so we're all on our A game. And I'm delivering souffle to a different table, hoping they'd see it. Like, oh, look at the souffle. Oh, are you the chef? Oh, yeah. Who are you? And giving them a tour. And I remember I gave them a tour of the garden and whatnot, and thinking, like, I know who you are. You know I know who you are, but we're going to pretend it's this name.
See, I don't think that she knew that I knew who she was, because the thing was, like, when I say I pulled out the chair, it might sound like that's out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
This restaurant had 12 seats up to the counter, and we did not employ servers. So, like, one of the chefs would bring you your bill at the end of the night. Like, we would come out and pull out your chair for you. And so I make sure, and I made sure, especially if I thought somebody was somebody, I would almost chat up the guests next to them more than them, so that they didn't think they were getting special treatment.
You know what I used to do? I used to plant. Once we identified the critic, the table next to them would, like, no one's allowed to sit there. I'd put a plant there. Yeah. So a friend or whoever, and text us play by play. What are they eating? And so there's one time the food critic. So this is the Dallas Morning News food critic at the time, Leslie Brenner. She's sitting down. And she orders I don't remember what it was some sort of beef dish. It was a protein. And she sends it back. So as it's coming back from the server, I pull it off and say, "Hey, let me see it. How was the steak cooked? I'm fucking with it." And I'm cutting into it, this, that, and the other. And then the server comes back. The main server comes back around. It's like, she wants that to go. I've already fucking hacked it up and pulled it apart just to see what it looked like. And I'm like, oh shit. And I have like seconds to react, but we were slick back then. We always cooked 2 portions, just in case for the critic. So I was like, get that one. I cut it.
Try to match it,
make it look like the one that she had eaten, but we got a bad review.
She was like, something went wrong with my doggy bag.
I remember she wrote in that particular article, we had a duck dish on there. She said the duck had the taste and texture of a hot dog. Yeah. I'm like, it's one of those things that I'll never forget, because, like, how the fuck did it taste like a hot dog? Maybe it sat in the brine too long. I don't know.
Well, the thing about being a critic is, I mean, and I'll say this as with the most respect possible. So Jonathan Gold was one of our first, like, my first champions, like, really championed us. And to this day is still, said the nicest things that any critic has ever said about, Marguerite and my cooking. But even he was reviewing bands, and then something happened to the food critic, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to start writing about food?" So, like, there's no, like, all that you need to be a food critic, like in a paper, give out stars, is experience in journalism. But you don't need a lick of experience in cuisine. You don't need to have worked in a restaurant. You do not need to be a fan of restaurants. And I have yet to ever see a critic preface an article by saying, "I'm not a fan of fill-in-the-blank cuisine. With that said, here's what I think." You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, if you hate horror movies, I don't like horror movies, right? So I might not be the best guy to review horror movies, but they don't have food critics where they're like, "Oh, well, this is our critic for Indian cuisine, and this is our critic for Japanese cuisine, and this is our critic for tasting menus." So you get some of these critics who are like, who just don't like tasting menus, and then they bash you, or they just don't like, nowadays, unfortunately, they don't like, it's become the anti-racism. They don't like the color of your skin. They don't like that your sexual preference. They don't like who you're friends with. They don't like your political leanings, and therefore they don't like your food. All of those things now, sometimes I see play into it more often than, was the fucking food taste good? Right. Like, was it yummy? Like, we've had people who are like, well, I don't like anything on top of my sushi. This is untraditional. I'm like, dude, you don't understand the tradition of sushi. I'm not the first person to ever do that. It's been going on. Sushi's 2,000 fucking years old. Like, there's a bit of history there. Yeah. But also, just because you don't prefer it doesn't mean it's not good. Right. It just means that you don't prefer it.
And the idea of the critics now, because you could argue anyone's a critic, right? Everyone's
not anyone, everyone.
Everyone's a critic. But there's influence now attached to that criticism where, if I have 100,000 followers, so what I say about your food can influence more than what the newspaper said about your food now.
Well, the people who have 100,000 followers on Instagram or whatever, are eating out a lot. They are, by all accounts, if you were going to dedicate your life to making food reviews on Instagram, I'm going to put money on the fact that you care about food and you're a big fucking fan of food.
Sure, yeah.
If you are in the music department or in the business finance department and the food critic gets fired and then they transfer you over to there, that doesn't mean you're not a foodie, but it doesn't require you to be a foodie. It effectively requires you to be a foodie and again, if you are getting into this, you're not getting into it just for free dinners. Nowadays, there's influencers who ask for free dinners. There's influencers who get free dinners. There's influencers who don't. There's influencers who don't ask for free dinners. But if you're going to go dedicate your time and energy into reviewing food without a paycheck, then clearly you actually like it. And if you garner 100,000 people to actually follow you on your journey through eating food, you clearly are doing it in a way that's honest. Or I don't want to say clearly. I'm being general here.
No, yeah.
In every aspect.
There's dishonest people everywhere.
But I would trust the person who I see is eating everywhere, and I'm looking at their face while they're reviewing it. I'm not reading it in an article that's like, I don't understand half the words because they're trying to win a fucking award.
Right, but there's also a certain point with an influencer, I would say, are they ever critical, or is it just everywhere they go is positive?
But you see some, but also I like that. You shouldn't. Now, are they hyping restaurants they shouldn't? That's probably not good. But I know personally many food influencers who, if they eat somewhere they don't like, they just don't post the review.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Yeah. They're not going to hurt the business.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, back in our days, the most revered critics were the ones who were known for putting restaurants out of business.
Fuck, and that was a thing.
That was a thing.
That was a badge.
And that was a power that was wielded. It's literally what Ratatouille's written about.
Yeah. They could close restaurants.
Yes.
It's fucking wild that exists. And then now you have, and switching subjects a little bit, with the Michelin guide has expanded. And Michelin's kind of funny, right? Because they need to do a better job with their press releases. I'll say that, and the timing of them.
You're talking about like people when sometimes they get leaked.
Yeah, they get leaked, and it's like, fuck. I guess and you're at the awards, and then you find out that, I guess I'm not winning today. Like we were talking. But it's funny with Michelin because it's interesting that they remove stars, and I don't really want to get into that because I don't have a comment on that. I truly don't. I've never eaten at the Little Washington Masa or Alinea. I haven't eaten at any of them, so I can't sit here and comment on them. And I also don't think it's my place. I'm a chef. I respect the hard work that goes into that.
Yeah.
But what I do find interesting with Michelin is as they have expanded to all these cities, does it dilute it a little bit? Maybe. And I had a conversation with someone the other day that said, but don't forget it's a guide. And if Texas is giving you $1 million to come put some restaurants in your guide, are you going to come and say, hey, thanks for the $1 million, there's nowhere to eat in Texas? So there is an argument to be made that they do need to hand out more stars.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at history, I believe it was the Nordic region that for the first 3 years, there were no stars.
None.
Now, I believe that was prior to the pay-to-play model that they're currently using. But I really can't comment on, are they giving away stars? If they were giving away stars, then they should have just given us a star.
No, I don't think they're giving away stars.
Yeah.
I just think I got to be careful.
You mean, are you saying like there's a quota, like in the way that we would think a cop has to pull over a certain amount of people?
Right. So if we're going to give you X amount of dollars,
we want to see some.
Yeah, because I'm not going to give you those. I'm not going to give you $1 million next year.
Yeah.
Right. What was the point? You didn't drive any business. There is an incentive to the state or to.
But I also think there are restaurants in Texas that are worthy of a star.
I agree.
And stars have always. I mean, stars didn't get introduced until I think 20 or 30 years into the guide.
Yeah.
The guide was always just about what's recommended. Then they brought in the stars, 20, 30 years later. So everyone thinks that Michelin is just stars.
Yeah.
Here I go generalizing again. Everyone, most people think that
Yeah.
that Michelin is just stars, but there's so much more in the guide than just the stars. Are like the smallest portion of the guide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that regardless of my opinion, these are some of the opinions out there.
Yeah.
In the chef community, the opinions are a star in one city is not the same as a star in a 1-star in a 1-star in New York is not the same as a 1-star in name the other city.
So I go back and forth on this because clearly I have no fucking idea how this works, and nobody does, right? But if you want to break it down, just like the most straightforward, 1 star is worth a stop, 2 stars is worth a detour, and 3 stars is worth a journey, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're in a city with a ridiculous amount of 2 and 3 stars, you have to be worth a stop, a detour, or a journey amongst your peers in that city. Now, if you're going through a rural part of America where there's no competition, then what's worth a stop, what's worth a detour, and what's worth a journey? The criteria, I believe, is a bell curve. And I think it's fair. I don't think it would be unfair to say that, look, would any barbecue in New York City get a star? Well, first of all, I think you can't even argue that any barbecue in New York is as good as Austin, right? But it'd be a very interesting thought to think, would La Barbecue get a star in New York City? I don't know. And if it's solely based on the food you put in your mouth, then clearly they would. But if it's more based on, I'm trying to tell you where to dine in this city, and you have to stand out amongst the city, then would it? I don't know.
Right. And to that point, when someone is coming from overseas and they're visiting Austin, Texas, and they say, where should I eat? They're going to want to know where to eat barbecue.
Yes. Which is why it makes total sense.
Right.
It makes total sense for barbecue to have stars. It doesn't make any sense for Franklin to not have a star.
I agree.
But it makes total sense for barbecue in general to have a star.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where people need to understand that Michelin doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Michelin. And the reason I say it like this, because what Michelin means to the chef that never won a star, to the chef that won a star, to the chef that chased 3 and never got it, to the chef that was in a city that never even got Michelin to come visit.
Yeah.
And to the person that eats at Michelin, it means something completely different to all these people. It also means something different to the CEO.
Yeah.
Who is like, okay, I got to make some money here. And I think ultimately the CEO has to consider all these other people that how it affects them. But ultimately, the CEO has a responsibility to make money for the company.
Well, you know what they should do? And I've thought about this for a long time.
They need to be more transparent. I'll say that.
Forbes should.
I like Forbes because Forbes is very clear. This is what we're looking for.
Well, here's what nobody does that I'm aware of. Any listing, any ranking, any definitive ranking should list the restaurants that were not visited. So like the 101 best restaurants in Los Angeles, LA Times 101 best restaurants. Mm-hmm. I know for 100% certainty that the person who does that list has not been to my restaurants. We were on the list when Jonathan Gold was alive and doing it. And as soon as a new person moved to LA and took over, we fell off the list and have never returned. Mm-hmm. And that person has never been there. So when you remove someone from a list or you don't put them on the list of top 100, the reader assumes that it's not the top 100 restaurants you've been to. It's top 100 restaurants in Los Angeles, because it's not called the top 100 restaurants I've eaten at. It's called top 1 restaurants Los Angeles. The same with Michelin, the same with World's 50, the same with, well, I guess World's 50 is different because of the way that they vote. But any of those ranking systems, you should very clearly state, here's the restaurants that we have not visited so far. And that's why they could be on this list if we ate there. Because first of all, there's too many restaurants to eat at.
Yep.
But second of all, if you haven't eaten there and you just leave them off the list, there are some restaurants that are striving for top 100 and there are some restaurants that are not.
Right.
And if you got a restaurant that's striving for fucking top 10 and they're not on the list because you haven't eaten there, you should probably that should be mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. The award system is so weird because a conversation I had with a chef group of friends of mine the other day is like, we want to open up a restaurant. They're talking, we want to open up a restaurant, but um, they're like, we want to be in the category of let's make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the category of eater's best new. Like, you could keep the eater's best new.
Yeah.
I'll take to paraphrase Kanye West, I'll take the I got a lot of cheese award.
That's back to the influencer versus the critic. The most important person to impress every single day in your restaurant is the person paying full price. They're going to keep you in business or they're not. I've had bad reviews, stayed in business because people like our food. I've had great reviews, stayed in business because people like our food. At the end of the day, if people stop coming and spending their money, you go out of business. Yep. And so with most of these influencers, you don't know whether that's paid for or whatever, but like, at least in the beginning, they were having to spend their own money.
Where do you fall? Do you assume they're paid or they got a free meal when you see an influencer doing something?
I don't know of many restaurants that pay. I think the restaurants that pay are the restaurants that are like...
But they comp.
Comps are normal.
Yeah.
Comps are definitely normal. And it's there's no quid pro quo when it comes to comps.
Yeah.
Or at least there's no quid pro quo that I've ever been a part of when it comes to comps.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, in the same way that you open a new restaurant,
mm-hmm.
you're going to invite in all of the media. Right. They're not critics, but the media.
The media dinners.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're going to comp them. Nowadays, there's no media anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There is Instagram influencers, there's people like that. So the people who actually move the needle are those people. So you invite those people in.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking with someone who's doing, a restaurant launch. And so they're talking about the media dinners and influencer dinners that they got to host as they're building up to new menu change or whatever. And I'm like, it's funny because they're like, yeah, we can't have them all at the same time. They got to come on their own because a lot of them don't like each other. They don't want to sit at the same table at the big communal tables. Like, I hate that bitch over there. I don't want to sit there. So it's like even the media dinners back in the day. I used to do two different styles of media dinners. Sometimes I would do the big media table. It's like everyone here's the menu, try it. And sometimes it'd be like, nope, no one likes that one person, so they could come in on a different day.
I always liked just peppering in.
Yeah.
Because
I can experience it.
Well, not only can they experience it, they can see if you got 10 people who are all critics,
mm-hmm.
then they're all being critical next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put a critic or a media or whatever you want to call them in the wild with a bunch of people who are paying their own money, and everyone around them is like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! Oh, babe, try this."
Right.
There's a if you're in a restaurant where everyone hates the food, you can feel it, and if you're in a restaurant where everyone loves the food, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And so. Hopefully your restaurant, everyone loves the food.
Yeah.
That's what we strive for. And so, you want to put them around the actual experience.
I want to ask, what was up with Gordon Ramsay? You were over there cooking recently.
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
So, Gordon Ramsay is the executive producer on Knife Edge, a new show on Apple.
Which is great, by the way. I haven't finished seeing it. I think I finished they're in London right now, not in the show, but where I'm at. I'm in London still, so I haven't got to LA yet.
Pasta Bar is the season finale.
Okay.
And we can talk about that after you see it if you want, or I can comment on it if you want now, whatever. But
you could be a spoiler for me. That's fine. I don't mind.
Well, there were some spoilers from me when I watched it.
Oh, was there?
There were some things I was surprised by. But he was the executive producer. And they did a kind of like a red carpet sort of premiere party. We didn't watch the whole thing, but it was like the first time they were going to like show like 15 minutes of like of the whole like a sizzle of the entire series. And so they sent an email out to, I assume, everyone who participated,
mm-hmm.
and said Chef Ramsay would like to invite you to London to his restaurant. He's going to be hosting this big gala, this party for the release. But because there's so many of you, we don't necessarily have a budget to fly everyone out. So I replied, and I'm like, we really, really want to come. I would be happy to do like a pop-up or something. Like I'm trying to work out, like, could we, through the Apple, like maybe get some, figure out some way to, help cover, room and board type of situation. And, they wrote back and they're like, we spoke with, Chef Ramsay, and he would love to host you at, one of his restaurants and do a collaborative, tasting menu. And I was like, yes, please. Yes,
Yeah,
please.
right. How cool is that?
It was amazing. And so, yeah, I mean, we flew out there, we did the thing, and we put on a 5-course tasting menu from Pasta Bar at one of his restaurants. So you could go in and just order the Pasta Bar tasting menu. And it was on the menu for like 3 weeks, and it did so well. They hit me up. They're like, hey, can we run it for another 3 weeks? Because I wasn't there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, go ahead, run it.
Very cool.
So it stayed on the menu for like over a month, that you were able to go and get it.
So were you able to build somewhat of a good relationship with Gordon through that experience?
Yeah. He was the kindest person ever. And he had this fatherly sort of like aura to him.
Yeah.
He kept telling me how proud he was of me,
Yeah.
and kept telling Margarita how proud he was of her. I mean, he had, he was familiar with us because the show had taped and he had seen it, and he was very impressed that like our age, how many stars we have, how many restaurants we have, how we don't have investors, how we've basically done this on our own. And he treated us so well. I'm super
That's
grateful.
great. You need to get him on NADC.
I would love to. I heard he doesn't really like to do podcasts.
Really?
Yeah, but it was the first time I met him. I've shaken his hand in passing in the past.
Yeah.
But now I have a rapport. Like I have his phone number.
Yeah.
And so like I would love to have him on. Had Jamie Oliver on.
I saw that.
I really want to have Thomas Keller on. I mean, there's some chefs that I really want to have on. But I feel like it needs to come more naturally in time.
Yeah.
Next time he comes to the States, or one of our cities, he's like, I really want to go and eat at the restaurant. And maybe once he sits there for a couple hours and we.
Do you have, so just, if you could give me your bucket list of chefs you'd want to have on the show, and then a bucket list of people, not necessarily chefs that you'd want to have on the show, like a couple of each in each category.
I mean, for chefs on the show, I just listed a couple of them. I would love to have Gordon Ramsay. I'd love to have Thomas Keller. I would love to have Jose Andres. I'd love to have David Chang. I'd love to have Grant Achatz. I think Grant Achatz might be the most, because of the cancer and everything, the most like there's not a damn chance, mindset.
Yeah.
So I would love to have that conversation. There's dozens of chefs that I would love to have on. Some for the purpose of I've loved to talk to them, and some for like the, dude, how did you not give up?
Right.
As far as just people I'd love to have on, I'd love to have Leonardo DiCaprio on.
Yeah.
I would love to know what that life was like. I'd love to have Shia LaBeouf on. I'd love to know just just people who have like very interesting ways of looking at the world, whether it be just by nature or out of necessity of like, how do I survive in such a foreign environment where nobody can relate to anything I go through ever?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. If I had 3 chefs that I'd love to have on this show, I have Guy Fieri. Only because I don't think anyone could relate to him.
I do want Guy Fieri. He said he would do I asked him.
Yeah.
He said he would do it next time he's in town.
Yeah. He just seems like, and I know a lot of people would question why I would want Guy. It's because I don't think anyone truly understands the genius that he is.
Yeah.
Like, forget what you see. There's a genius behind him.
Yeah.
And I see it. Renee would be the other one.
Yeah.
And then Gordon. That's my 3. Renee, because I think he's funny.
He would be a great conversationalist.
Yeah. I think he's funny, and I think he does a lot of things that like are jokes for one,
like
jokes for him, and that are over a lot of people's heads. But I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit of a troll too. I see it. I see what you're doing. I think that's funny too. And then Gordon, because I think he is the GOAT.
Yeah.
He's the complete package. 3 stars. TV in every aspect of of success a chef can have, he's attained it.
And he still has the street cred.
Yeah.
He's held 3 stars for, I think, 26 years.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very hard to find someone who is at the top of the celebrity game and still is at the top of the street cred game.
Yeah.
That is very uncommon.
What's interesting about that, I'm going to put you in a little bit of a unicorn bucket.
Okay.
For people that don't know, everything that you do, how many, 30 restaurants?
I think we're at 28 restaurants now.
And working service. So the reason you're here today is because you're working service up the street tonight.
Yeah. So we don't have any investors in our restaurant group. Neen Williams is my partner in NADC, but otherwise no partners. We started our first restaurant, my wife and I, in our 1-bedroom apartment in 2013. And we now are at 27, 28 restaurants. And I still, Margaret is still working in the kitchen. When I open a new restaurant, I'm not working in the kitchen every single day. That would be a lie. But like, I haven't missed a shift yet in the first month of Shokin and opening. It's also a new concept. So like, I'm really having to like train. But like, I'm working a station. And the thing is, I love it. I want to work a station.
But you're working a station.
Yeah.
You also have Not a Damn Chance podcast, which is successful and great show.
Thank you.
You have 30 restaurants. You're also on TV in multiple channels. I mean, you've done everything from Top Chef to Knife's Edge to the show with Morimoto, and I'm sure I'm probably missing some. And being involved in all of those things, what's interesting is you're involved in all of them at a high level. You're not like you're not just taking any show on. You're taking on Knife's Edge. Like, it's probably the biggest culinary show right now.
Yeah.
Right. That people are talking about.
Yeah.
You were on Rogan. So the reason I bring this up is because in today's day and age, if we were going to give advice for the young up and coming culinary talent that's out there, and a lot of them are, they're reclusive. They don't even jump on social media to promote what they're doing, their business. So a lot of times they're a ghost. No one knows they exist. From a chef to chef standpoint, if you were going to give advice to people that are listening right now, where do they get started? And how do they balance media from traditional media like TV to the new media, which is like social media, but then even to taking that a step further to podcasting? And how does all that affect the machine that is the restaurant business?
So it depends. I would tell someone who has their first executive chef job or even second executive chef job to not fucking do any social, like, don't worry about any of that. Just cook. Just make sure your food is fucking great. That's all that matters. I got into this sort of media game out of necessity to survive. So we opened in 2013. We got my wife and I did not get a paycheck until January of, maybe March of 2016. We survived. We lived off of money I won on Food Network. So, at that point, I was 25, 26 years old. I owned a restaurant, and if we didn't sell enough food, we didn't have payroll, and we never had enough money left over to give ourselves any money. And so I never wanted to do TV. Now I've become accustomed to it. It's been, it's been 13 years or whatever, but like, a buddy of mine went on Chopped, and he's like, dude, it's fishing with dynamite. You can't lose 10 grand. Another buddy goes on, dude, you should do it. I'm like, no. Then the producers start hitting me up, because if you win Chopped, they're like, do you have any friends that you think would also win? And so the producer calls me and goes, well, we've had about 11 people this season who have all said you need to be on the show, that you will win. I'm like, no. And then I'm talking Margarita. I'm like, fuck, $10,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So go there, win, 10,000, boom. It's funny, the very next day I land back in LA, turn my phone on. Hey, I'm the producer of a new show called Guys Grocery Games. We're shooting episode 2, I think.
Had you already been on Top Chef?
No.
No, so this is pre-Top Chef.
Yeah. Chop was the first thing I did. And then Guys Grocery Games hits me up. Hey, brand new show with Guy Fieri. You can win up to $20,000. I'm on the tarmac. I'm riding high from winning 10 grand last night. They're like, it shoots tomorrow in LA. And I'm like, okay. Because they're like, we heard you won Chopped. We think you'd be good for the show. So go into that. Next day, win that. And I think I won 16 grand on that. So boom, $26,000 for a chef who doesn't have a paycheck. And now I'm fucking hooked.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's like then once you start winning these things, they start calling you. Hey, will you come jump on, I'm forgetting it. The one where like you get to sabotage each other.
Cutthroat.
Yeah. You want to come on Cutthroat? Okay. So go do that. I win that. Then they're like, hey, come back on Guys Grocery Games. Win 20 grand again. Okay. And so like I was making like 30, 40 grand a year.
And you're becoming a regular now. They know you.
Yeah. I think at one point I held I'm sure it's been destroyed at this point, but I held the record for most consecutive wins across the network.
Wow.
And that's not counting, one of the Iron Chefs or whatever, but consecutive, meaning I won like 5 different shows in a row without any losses or second places.
Bobby show?
I did not do Beat Bobby Flay. I judged on Beat Bobby Flay.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I was like, I'm done competing. As after my experience with Top Chef, that I was like, I'm done competing.
You couldn't beat Fancy Chef. Shout out to Fancy Chef.
I think that went down exactly as it was supposed to.
The rematch. Come on. It's funny. I still love Fancy Chef. What did I see him do the other day? It was a video on Instagram of Will Guidara. It was either Will Guidara or I think it was Will Guidara or it had to have been Will Guidara's like podcast interview clip. And then on the bottom in the comments, it's like, book me now. He put it in the comment of a video that's going viral.
Yeah, Fancy is the best. But yeah, I mean, I started doing TV because 2 things.
Yeah.
If you're on television, you're going to get butts in seats.
Mm-hmm.
So it was job security for my team. Second, I did it so that I could survive and my family could survive. Without the necessity of those 2 things, I think it took away a lot of time that I could have spent getting better at restaurants. So if you want to go the route of the buck stops with you and you are personally guaranteeing your fish vendor and you are going to get the IRS to put a lien on your bank account and levy your bank account if you don't make payroll taxes, then motherfucker, go out there and hustle. But if you're working somewhere and you've got a paycheck, don't. It takes up too much time. And I only recently got into the kind of social media posting and stuff like that, because now it's necessary. It didn't used to be necessary. You used to be able to like get a spread in Condé Nast or in the Times or whatever, and boom, you're full for 3 months. Now you get a spread in any magazine and it's crickets.
Yeah. And when you look at the bump that you get, whether it's butts and seats or maybe it's just sometimes, a boost in social media. Sometimes you do something that goes viral, boom, you get a little boost on social media. And then there's discovery. Which one has had the greatest impact? So if you're advising chefs right now, is it the podcast? Is it the TV? Or is it what you're doing on social media? Or is it something that we're not even talking about?
The biggest bumps that I've gotten, the biggest bump I've ever gotten was from Joe Rogan when he first posted about us in January of 2021. We sold out and had 20-something thousand people on the wait list in 24 hours. That's the biggest bump I've ever gotten. Positive bump. Top Chef gave us a really negative bump. But that's the biggest positive bump. So you know Jack's Dining Room?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
he does a great job.
So he does. He's one of those influencers that I was talking about, where it's like he cares about the food. He doesn't talk shit. I even trust what he likes. But like for him, and I've told him this. I'm like, other than Rogan, you are the biggest needle mover anywhere, because Forbes will write a thing. Food and Wine will write a thing. The Times will write a thing. I'll host a show. I'll, be the head judge on a show. I'll star on a show, and none of them put butts in seats. When he put a review of Sushi by Scratch in New York, within 24 hours we had 3,000 new reservations. When Knife Edge came out, I don't know that we got a single new reservation from that. So I think you do see more butts in seats, believe it or not, from like the cute couple sitting at table 4 that's taking pictures of their food, and they're going to post it on their Instagram to their 3,000 friends. You're going to see 6 new people come in from them. You know what I mean? And now, so really I feel like just be undeniably great. Just try to do really, really well, and try to treat everyone really, really well, and not just be nice to them. Like, well, I'll go off on my tangent about a lot of restaurants forget that to be in the hospitality business, you should be hospitable.
Yeah, right.
we forget. There's a lot of restaurants we've lost hospitality. And hospitality is about making people feel warm and welcomed and wanted, And so many there's restaurants I won't name, but there's a restaurant in LA that I won't go back to. It's fucking so good, but they're so mean. They're so mean because, like, I feel like 8 or 9 years ago, that sort of Brooklyn swagger caught on in LA. In a way where it's just like, why are you being mean to me? I just want a bagel. Like, why are you being mean to me? I don't understand this.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think I may have told you this last time you were here. I ate at this restaurant, and the guy was like, the food was bad, but the guy was like the best host and fucking hugging us at the table and wanting our phone number so we could stay in touch. And I was like, I haven't felt that good in a restaurant, regardless. The food was not good, and I that's why I don't say where it was, because the food was not good.
Tell me off camera.
but I've been there several times since because of how like, I want to support his business. He's like a genuinely good Italian man that just wants to welcome people. It's like you're going to a friend's house. It's like he's cooking for you and his wife's cooking for you. It's like, it's great. And the hospitality for me in those moments, if they can make you feel a certain way, if you can nail that, like, people will go back. I never really understood until I did, when people would say the service will impact more than the food. I was like, no, that's not fucking true, because I'm a chef. And trust me, I'm the one that they're coming for. But as time has gone on, I and not that there are exceptions to the rule where the food does, but I would say in general, 80% of the restaurants that have amazing service will win.
Yeah.
And amazing hospitality.
It is a sliding scale.
Yeah.
Because like the place that I don't go back to, there's still fucking packed line around the block.
Yeah.
So it is a sliding scale of, like, if you have the best food in the world, you can get away with so much more. And if you have the worst food in the world, you have to be the most amazing hospitality, in the world. And so really, I always feel like to become a chef, you have to pass cooking. It's a prerequisite to becoming a chef, because because you have to be so good at cooking that it's not on your mind. You have to be able to be having a conversation with your GM while your phone is ringing because your accountant is saying, whatever your vendor's calling, and you're on hold on the other line with the plumber because he's walking you through how to plunge the toilet. And while that's happening, you go, whoa, turn off that blender. There's too much. You've overfilled that blender, because you just know what a blender sounds like when it's too full, because of how many times you have used a blender in your career, that you can be doing 10 different things, but still go, or you go, yo, that's done. Whatever's in that oven, pull it out. It's done. It's done.
Yeah.
You have to be able to.
Chef force.
It's just a prerequisite.
Yeah.
At this point, like, I can get like almost blackout drunk. Never done it blackout, but almost blackout drunk, have a bunch of friends over, cook a bunch of meat on the grill, be not even paying attention, and it all is perfectly cooked because I've just done it so many times.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay attention to it because it's a prerequisite. Once you have that prerequisite, you've aced that, you're the valedictorian in cooking, then you start worrying about the hospitality. But up until that point, as a young chef, your job isn't to worry about the hospitality. That's the GM's job. That's the front of house job. Unless you decide to go the route that I did, which is have a restaurant with no front of the house. I have servers now at Shokunin. This is my first time having servers in over a decade. And it's a learning curve. Learning curve for me, because I'm used to showing someone once and having them do it correctly. And I'm on showing it like 13, 14, 15, 16 times, and we're still getting there. But I don't know what I'm ranting about now.
Well, I want to go back to something that you said. You said Top Chef had the negative effect.
Yeah.
Why was that?
Well, they made me a villain.
Oh, okay.
They turned me into like the pessimist. Like there's a scene where like I'm cooking and they play like dun 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 dun, like stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't even fucking control that, right? That's
no. Not only can you can't control that, you're not allowed to protest it. But like it did. Like the thing was when people would come to the restaurant and eat there, they'd be like, and they would meet me because I was at the restaurant. They'd be like, "Your food's good, and you're nothing like what they did on TV." And I'm like, "Well, it is the same network that makes the Housewives." Yeah. I've done a lot of cooking shows, and some of them, when I watch them, it's exactly as I remember. And some of them, when I watch them, I'm like, I could have swore I won that round. Is my memory wrong? I'm like, I could have swore that the dish that won, that guy cooked, is on my menu. I thought I cooked that dish. Did I not? Like I've been on enough shows where it's like sometimes you're just very confused. You're on the edge of your seat when you watch the show and you're like, man, you start to ask yourself like, which producer's little brother did I beat up in high school?
Yeah. Movie magic, right? Yeah, movie magic.
But you can't say any of that.
I get it. I talked to someone. Actually, I'm not even gonna. There's no point in telling that story because I can't tell it without incriminating people.
Sure.
But I want to ask you about Knife Edge. So again, I'm on the London episode right now, so I don't know what's next. Maybe Mexico or something. Go ahead and spoil it for me. So for people that are listening, spoilers ahead.
Well, it's not so much spoiling as there was some stuff that I.
So who are the LA chefs? So it was you, Dave Barron.
Dave and I were the LA chefs, and then Harbor House.
Okay.
So those are the three restaurants that are profiled. I found it very interesting that the way that we were portrayed. Now the restaurant looks awesome. But they introduced me as a businessman, restaurateur who has past experience working in Michelin kitchens. And they don't at all position me as a chef or a chef who's won Michelin stars or anything like that. I thought that was an interesting approach interesting spin to put on the narrative. Mm-hmm. I also found it very interesting that they chose to not include Margarita, mm-hmm. Who's the owner of the restaurant and the pastry chef who's won multiple Michelin stars for half a decade. She's in one scene and they don't even give her a title card. I thought that was an interesting choice, mm-hmm. in terms of a narrative.
How long were they in the restaurant with you all?
Quite a while. I mean, it was over the course.
An hour.
Yeah, no, it was over the course of they shot it for over the course of a year.
Oh wow!
And there's a ton of stuff obviously that doesn't make the cut.
Sure.
There's a ton of stuff that got cut out. But yeah, those were the two things that I was like, really like, that's an interesting angle to kind of, put. But at the end of the day, DJ, who's my chef there, who was my sous chef and then CDC pre-pandemic, went back home, and then he got tapped after the third time we got a star to come in and take over Pasta Bar. He looks fucking awesome. The restaurant looks fucking awesome. So not much to complain about.
Yeah.
Just thought it was, surprising.
Which year for Michelin was this?
I think it was 2023.
Yeah,
It might have been 3 or 4.
Was it the year that you and your brother won?
No.
Okay.
No. Lennon got his star in 25. That was this most recent one. So this was either the 23. Okay, so we got a star in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I want to say this is 21, 22. I want to say this was 23's Michelin ceremony. And it was the first year we were going for 2 stars. So maybe it was 24. We were going for 2 stars, like actively, like our episode is like 1 star chasing 2. You know how it says like underneath like their current standings and what they're going for.
Yeah. New restaurant chasing 1 star.
Yeah. So it's not much of a spoiler. You know, in 2025 we have 1 star. So
got it. Okay. As a matter of fact, it's a great show. I've enjoyed. I like the Chicago episode. The New York episode was great. So I was hooked. I was like, okay, I feel like it's a serious show.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. I just wish that, you know, to be profiled as such a, you know, on such a big platform, like the story of Marguerite and I and how we got there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, she makes up 30% of the menu, 5 desserts. The first thing you get is her fresh baked bread out of the oven, her butter. There's so much on the menu that,
So tell people a little bit that might not know the story, that she's your pastry chef and you guys work together. And how did you guys meet?
We met in middle school.
Yeah.
I'm a couple years older than her, so she was 6th grade, I was 8th grade. We hung out in the same group in the quad, you know, the skater, punk rocker, you know, group. Her and her friends used to come and see my band play. And then we lost touch for, you know, I want to say 7, 8, 9 years. And then it must have been MySpace, maybe Friendster, that she posted like, you know, something about wanting to go to culinary school. And I think I had just got my first sous chef job. So I was 20, 21. And I was like, don't go to culinary school. Like you should, it's a waste of your time. I'd already dropped out of culinary school. I was like, don't go to culinary school. You should, you know, just go work in a restaurant. And that started now we hit her up on AIM, and now we're, you know, now we're talking. And then we run into each other at a party, like a house party, because that's what you did in LA. And we moved in together 3 days later. And that was like 17 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And in 2012, I got my first executive chef job at a restaurant called D Cachet. I've been there for like 40 years and revamped the menu, did everything. And I needed basically what happened was there was no pastry chef. So I went and wrote a dessert menu, and she talked a bunch of shit. And I was like, well, if you can do better, like you fucking do it. And she went in and she did better. And I went to the owner and I was like, we have to hire her. And he's like, there's no budget. We can't hire her. And so I make a decision. We already live together. I'm just going to split my salary of like $27,000 a year as executive chef. We're just going to split. And from there we broke off and opened Scratch Bar, which now was, you know, almost 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we've been married for 13 years, and she's done all the desserts for every menu I've ever written for 14, 15 years.
How different is the creative process for you both? Obviously, I'm sure you have a process to write menus and dishes.
We're very different.
Yeah. What is yours like? And then I'm curious what hers is like.
I'm a musician, so I like to jam. I don't I like to roll shit out on the menu.
Yeah.
I don't like to R&D for 6 months. Nothing hits her menu. It's probably why her food's better than mine. Nothing hits the fucking table with her that she has not. It's not like pinpoint precision on every single thing. You could not try it and be like, fuck, you know what you should do? No, you taste it and you go, Jesus Christ, I should fucking quit. You know?
Yeah.
Now, I don't like overproduced music. I like punk. I like it to be a little raw. I like there to be the flavor of the edge, you know, which works really well when you yourself and your small band of you know, pirates are working together and slanging the food out. Once you start having multiple restaurants and you have a much larger team, you can't really do that. You have to start making things. Like, I was very against recipes for a very long time.
Still?
I can't be. I don't use recipes. But if you're going to have 13 restaurants that all have to make the same rice, you have to have a fucking recipe.
Yeah.
But the reason I was against it is I thought recipes made you a worse cook. I felt that fine dining and like high level fine dining in culinary school was killing young cooks because they were learning how to replicate.
Yeah.
They were just learning how to tweeze stuff onto plates. They were just learning how to put stuff into dehydrators. They were just learning, like when you go to culinary school, it's just a cooking class. But you weren't learning how and why. So I always taught philosophy and approach. If you're making a beet puree or a beet sauce, it's going to need a different amount of acid every single time you make it. It's going to need a different amount of sugar or whatever you're using to sweeten every single time you make it. It's going to need a different amount because the beet is not printed in a factory. It's going to have differing levels of sweetness, earthiness, roundness, all of those things. And so if you teach someone how to just follow a recipe, it won't be great every time. But if you teach someone how to cook, then it will be great every single time.
It's very Musashi-like master the one thing, you master the 10,000 variations.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that Scratch Bar had a fireplace and no gas in the kitchen is I wanted a restaurant where you had to learn how to cook. I wanted you to like understand heat and how to cook by moving things closer and further away from the heat. If you let your fire go out, you cannot boil your water for the pasta course. So guess what? You don't fucking let your water go out. So like it just keeps you so much more engaged. It's so much more tactile. And just for me, I learned how to cook. I learned how to cook in Hatfields is actually the restaurant I credit the most for learning how to cook. We had 1 star as a sous chef. I was 22.
What year were you at Hatfields?
2009, 10. So I must have been 22 because I was born in 87.
Maybe. Did you work with someone by the name of Jordan Sanchez? He also cut his teeth there at
Jordan Sanchez.
At Hatfields. He was my CDC at one point.
It doesn't sound familiar.
You guys may have maybe.
Do you know Russell Victorioso from Love Supreme?
No.
You know Love Supreme here in town?
Mm-hmm.
He's the chef there. Him and I were station partners in, again, 2009, 2010. And we were both brought into the office at the same time. We thought we were going to get fucking reamed. And we were both made sous chef at the same time.
Oh, nice.
And then I left there to go work at L2O in Chicago. And 6 months later.
Was that under Gra?
I got hired by him, but he was gone. I gave a 90-day notice because that's what you did back. Kids, you gave a 90-day notice back in the day.
Yeah.
By the time I got there, he had left.
So it was Kirkley?
It was during a period where Let Us Entertain You was bringing a different chef.
Okay.
So like Doug Saltis was there. Walter Mansky was there.
Doug Saltis is a legend.
Yeah. So I got to meet like a lot of, but it was like substitute teachers in a class.
Fair.
That's
a beautiful kitchen.
Yeah.
L2O, yeah.
We would spend more time cleaning that kitchen than service every single day.
Yeah.
And one of the hazing things was, so what you would do is the whole kitchen was stainless steel.
Mm-hmm.
You would take a scouring pad and you had to start at the bottom left of your station and you had to mirror polish all the way in equal strokes. Uh-huh. I'm talking like 3 hours of service, 4 hours of cleaning every night. And
back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No circles, had to be back and forth. You could not, because if you had to be the right amount of pressure, and as part of the hazing, they would come over and you have to go back and do it again. But that was, that's what it was like back then. And that was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was talking about Hatfields is, we're doing 150 tasting menus a night. They're all 6-pan picks. No oil on the line. We cooked with butter. And you could not let your butter speck. And we're pan frying in butter to order. We are sauteing in butter to order. And if your butter broke while you are pan frying pan de mie for the croque madame, you had to throw it away. And so like you had to learn how to control the temperature of your butter. You had to learn to control it through salt, through water,
Mm-hmm.
through heat management. You had to make sure that you had other pans pulled down because you knew what you're on deck with,
Mm-hmm.
and every pan is a 6-pan pick, and it's like that's how you learn how to cook.
Well, and I think that's something that's lost. You're talking about this repetitive. Sometimes in these fine dining settings, it's like I'm just going to make tuiles all day, or whatever the case may be. It's like you got to understand temperature control. You got to understand how to control temperatures at different volume levels of business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's or salinity levels, or tasting things and tasting it multiple times. It reduced too far. I used to keep a little squeeze bottle of water to add to the sauce might have got a little too far down. We just need to hydrate it a little bit more, or something broke.
Yeah.
A little squeeze of water. But you don't know those things when you become an automaton and you're just not thinking about.
Well, I'll give you an example. I left Hatfields and went to work at L2O.
Yeah.
And I got put on the fish station. And I'm a seafood guy, so I'm like, this is fucking so cool. And I took a step when I took a step. I was a sous chef before Hatfields. Went back to being a chef de partie because I went from 0-star to 1-star. Then I became a sous chef at a 1-star. Then I took a step back to become a chef de partie at a 3-star.
Yeah.
And there was a day when, and now every station on L2O, and I learned a shitload there.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get me wrong, but every station had like 2 blenders, 3 dehydrators. Like it wasn't quite cooking the way that I had, anticipated. It was very, very, very different. And we had to make a brandade.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting trained, and we have the recipes down to the gram. And I think this is one of the moments for me where I was that helped inform that when I had my first restaurant, fuck recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Because here you've got these cooks who've got 3 stars, and they're teaching me how to make a brandade. And we get all the way to the end of the recipe, and I'm told, okay, go ahead and put it away. And I'm like, can I taste it? Like, we haven't tasted this yet. We're putting it away, but we haven't tasted it yet. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead and taste it. So I taste it, and it's a salt lick. It's just so salty. And I go, and I'm the new guy in a 3-star. I'm as quiet as a fucking mouse, but so I'm like, I haven't tried it here. Does this taste a little salty to you? And so the cook, it was one of the cooks who was training me, tastes it and goes, it's a little salty. And I see him like thinking, and I'm like, you want me to grab some cream, butter? Like, no. Grab some xanthan water. I'm like, xanthan water? Like, yeah, we'll stretch it. And so we stretched it with xanthan water until it wasn't too salty to taste. But now it tasted like water. And I just remember going home that night being like, I don't understand. Like, that's not how you cook,
Yeah.
Now, again, if you want to cook at that level, there's a precision. And I'm sure that's not how Laurent would have wanted something done.
Probably would have said it's fucking salty.
But I also came into a classroom where the
Yeah.
teacher had been out for 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah. I had a guy on the show, Andrew Turner, recently, and he worked at Louis Kahn's when Laurent was CDC, Ducasse's first restaurant, when he only had that restaurant. And so Ducasse's still
in the kitchen.
Technically, right?
Yeah.
But Laurent's the chef. And he has Jean-Francois Piage and Mauro Colagreco are like CDPs. and it's like you
little firepower.
Yeah, it's like, holy shit, these guys are your CDPs, and Ducasse is still hanging out, and Laurent is running the pass, and he mentioned a couple of other people. That one guy ended up becoming the chef at Le Cirque, and it's like you have these moments in time. I know I've experienced it maybe once or twice in my career, not at that level.
Yeah.
But where you have a team that's like, all these people are going to be great.
Yeah.
And you recognize it in that moment, and you have a certain level of success at that moment. But it's short lived because everyone eventually they go out and they do their things. And then it might be 10 years before you ever catch that lightning in a bottle again.
Yeah. I had that back in the day when I was like, I mean, again, it's been a while since by a while, I mean like years since I had only one restaurant, and I worked that restaurant with that team and led that team. And I'm getting, like, I looked at my wife a couple weeks ago at Shokunin, and I was like, I'm so happy I'm a chef again. Because also, Shokunin is a completely new concept.
Uh-huh.
So we're not just running the playbook in a new location. which is what we do at Sushi by Scratch restaurants. Now, it's not cookie cutter by any stretch. We are, we're constantly improving, and we're constantly like each restaurant has its own dishes, etc. But like we're basically running the playbook, like you know what I mean. But with this, it was like there's no system. There's no system for what time family meal is. There's no system for when we're going to scrub down. There's no system for how we're cleaning up or organizing the reach-ins, where those all have systems already. And so it was so refreshing for me. But like, I guess for me, I've had that a little bit in sushi. Like if you look around Austin, at least, you can see our family tree, falling, the leaves are falling pretty close. But my goal with the Inn at Crumley Ranch Road that I told you about last time, that will be the restaurant that I hope to produce, and my hope is that in 20, 30 years, they'll be like, man, those 4 dudes were like, that was the line at that time, because that's every chef's, like, we're the only art form that dies with the artist. And so the only thing you have is legacy, and it's your family tree. Once Thomas Keller passes, he will forever have a family tree that started with him, right? But his food won't be there.
Right.
Maybe his restaurants will stay. Joe Robuchon's restaurants are still there.
Right.
But like your art typically dies with you. It's the only one. We're still listening to Nirvana.
It's funny. You look at what Thomas did with the French Laundry. Is he created? I had David Breeden on here a couple of times. He's talking about how Thomas created an environment for excellence. To percolate. And I think when you could do that, and then you get the right talent coming through the kitchen, and because they're attracted to it. Talent attracts talent. And you're able to just kind of sit back and just kind of watch these people flourish. It's pretty impressive. I want to ask specifically for people that are listening that want to make better tasting food. Let's just start at the basics. How can we make better sushi rice? How do you fix the world's problems just with rice at a general level?
That's tough, because that's something I probably should not touch with a fucking 100-foot pole, is trying to tell the world how to make better sushi rice.
Well,
but
can we talk about what kind of rice should we be using?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to give you if you're at home and you're a beginner and you just want to make good sushi rice, I'll teach you how to do that. I feel comfortable doing that. But there are plenty of legends in Japan who have been making, rice longer than me.
Sure.
So here's a couple of things that I do with sushi rice. One, you want to use koshikari. That is a specific type of rice. Just like there's basmati and jasmine, there's koshikari. In Japan, there are many different varietals of rice, each one used for different applications. For whatever reason, we have decided that koshikari will be the one we use for sushi. And so you get that, and you're going to want to wash your sushi rice. Now, one of the things that I do that actually my brother taught me about. So my brother worked for me for 9 years, and now he holds a Michelin-star for making sushi. And he was the first person I ever heard of who would bring in brown rice and mill it himself every day. And I tried his rice, blown away. Every one of my restaurants now brings in brown rice, mills it ourselves every day. It truly is the difference between buying pre-ground coffee and grinding it yourself.
Okay.
It is that different. I now believe that if you buy white rice, you're essentially buying dead rice. At home, it's maybe not necessary, but hey, get brown rice. You can buy a machine that mills your rice on, I don't think you can get it on Amazon, but if you put in, rice milling machine, they're not cheap, but they work. They break a lot, but they work.
Yeah. So you're doing that for all your restaurants?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then from there, you'll wash your rice. Now, I wash my rice in ice water, not tap water. I learned when I opened in Miami, coming from LA, all of a sudden my rice was just like gummy and overcooked, and I couldn't understand why. And then I go and I look, they're washing it in the sink, and the sink is fucking 85-degree water. LA has colder water.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I need to control the water temperature. So I use ice water in all the restaurants. So just like when you're going to soak rice before you cook rice, How long you soak it is very important. You can over soak it, you can under soak it. Every second that your rice is in water, you are getting closer to the point of no return, meaning you can go over, right? The colder your rice is, the more it combats and slows that down. So if it's comfortable, you don't have enough ice in your water. You need a lot of ice. I'm going through a Cambro of ice when I'm cleaning my rice. And I'm cleaning my rice, and I'm doing it until you can fill up the water and you can still see the rice. So basically, it's clear enough to see through it. From there, what I do is I strain it, and then I put them in masu boxes, which are like Japanese cedar wood boxes, and I put those in the fridge. Again, keep it cold, and the masu box is going to pull out moisture. I want it to be as dry as possible, as quick as possible. Then when I go and I do my soak, I soak in the fridge. Keep the clock, keep it as slow as possible. And then, so so you basically want to clean the rice. I soak it for 30 minutes, and then I cook it. I use a rice cooker. I use a Zojirushi. You can buy one at home, and it will pop when it's done. And what I do is, as soon as it pops, the second it pops, I unplug it, I open up the lid, and I drape the cord over it, and I crack the lid, and I let it steam for 20 minutes with the top cracked. From there, I go into a hangiri, which is a big wooden bowl. You can do it in a mixing bowl. You don't need this. But you're basically going to make a vinegar. You can buy vinegar, but you probably want to doctor it a little bit. You want your vinegar, well, I don't want to say you want. I want my vinegar to be balanced. I want sweet and sour. I'm not a big fan of when it's too sour. A lot of New York sushi is very sour rice. I don't love that with my fish. I love more of a balanced sweet and sour, which is more LA style. So I'll take, for example, at home, buy some rice vinegar, add a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, touch of water. I throw some chili flakes in there just for a little bit of salivation. And then you basically take your vinegar, and this needs to be weighed out. So at home, just add in vinegar until you think it's too much, and you'll learn. But you mix it really good until until the rice absorbs all the vinegar. And you're basically doing, at least the way I do it, it's like a quick pickle. So sushi rice used to be effectively pickled because the lactic acid from the fish would actually ferment, and it would turn it into, like, the fish would cook in the rice in the way that ceviche does. Instead of 10 minutes, it would take a year. So that's where the vinegar sour flavor came from. Once they didn't have to do that anymore, which was only a couple hundred years ago, they missed the flavor of sourness. That's when they started vinegaring the rice. So you just want to have a nice, sort of like, think of it like you're dressing a salad. You don't want it to be wet and sloppy, but it needs to be, aggressively dressed.
Sure. Taking a completely different side of the world, I guess we could say. We're talking pasta now. What are some of the keys that you think that make good pasta?
Good pasta is so subjective, right? I like a denser, egg yolk forward pasta. I don't care for pastas that are like melt in your mouth. Now, there's a time and a place, I guess. But like, I want a pasta that fights back. That doesn't mean undercooked. That means very, very elastic. That's what I like. I like to have to fight my pasta. And so you can typically achieve that with more egg yolk. My go-to, if you're like, yo, make me the best pasta you can make, it's going to be egg yolks and flour.
Double zero?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the only two ingredients. And it'll be a lot of egg. It'll be a bright, I'm looking for a yellow in here. There isn't one. It'll be a bright yellow, like school bus yellow pasta. And it will fight back at you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there was any, I would ask, like, is there something that you do that, I don't want to say it's unique to you because no one else does it, but is there something that you do that you think people could learn, the audience that's listening, to impact flavor significantly. That's like a lot more people should do this because you're missing out on flavor points.
So here's so for home cooks, use more salt. For restaurant cooks, here's my approach to salt. Salt is not a flavor. Salt is an enhancer. Okay? Let me give you an example. If you slice a tomato and you eat it plain, it's going to be pretty good. If you put just a little bit of salt on it, it's going to taste sweet. Why? It's not because salt is sweet. It's because salt, what it does is it actually activates your taste buds. So your taste buds live dormant, right? You can activate your taste buds a couple different ways. By actually using an ingredient that will, as it passes over, will make you start to salivate. Or there's even like the idea of umami, right? If you think about beef jerky, you'll start to salivate, right? There are things. So when you want just enough salt that you can't taste the flavor of salt. Salt will bring out the sweetness in anything, the natural sweetness. All it's doing is it's meant for opening up your taste buds so that you can taste the sweetness in that tomato. Think of it like listening to music with earplugs in, right? Put your fingers in your ears. Now take your fingers out and you can hear clearly. That's what salt is meant for.
It's funny that you're the only other person I've heard explain it that way with music, because I often say with salt, it's like the volume dial on a stereo. Too much, the music sounds too loud. Not enough, you can't hear the music. It's about finding that sweet spot.
So that's a good thing you bring up. I think of seasoning like EQ. So as a musician, your EQ is very important. You cannot listen to the Dead Kennedys on the same EQ as NWA.
Yeah.
Right? One is going to require a much higher treble and one's going to require a much higher bass. So treble is your salt, fat is your bass, and acid is your mids. So it's always the way that we call it, they call it house seasoning. Olive oil, lemon juice, sea salt. In that order. You put the fat on there to round what you have. You put the acid on there to enhance, to brighten the rounded thing, and you put salt on at the end to be able to actually hear it clearly.
I love how you explained that. That's great. Last question that I have for you, because I asked you, the closers last time, but I have a new one. If you had one chef, living or not, that would be your bucket list for them to cook for you, who would it be?
Cook for me?
Yeah. Whose food you'd want to eat?
Only one name is coming into my head hard, and I'm trying to put other names in there just to give it a fair shake. But Escoffier is the only name that I can come up with right now. I feel like where I am in my career, I've gone all the way around, and I'm going back to the beginning. I think that's why at Shokunin, there's no garnish. That restaurant is an homage to what sushi was like in the San Fernando Valley along Ventura Boulevard in the late 80s, early 90s. Everything is directly from that place and time. It's the sushi that inspired me. It's the sushi that made me fall in love with the cuisine. And unfortunately, no one's opening new restaurants like that anymore. And it's a dying style, unfortunately, in America, because now, if you want good fish, you have to go to the $300 omakase that's going to have colors and flavors and textures and all of those things. And I kind of felt like, a bit of a responsibility to, beyond the fact that it's just what I like eating sushi that way. I kind of felt a bit of a responsibility to do that because that's where I got all of my inspiration from. Yet I went off in this other direction, and now that other direction has become the industry standard. Now is you don't open a fucking sushi place without some garnish and some microgreens and colors and texture. You just don't. Right. So I'm hoping to sort of bring that back, and it brings me to. Sorry, I give such long answers.
No, it's okay. I think people enjoy seeing the thought process.
I do think a lot in real time.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
the inn at Crumley Ranch Road.
Uh-huh.
I want to really explore what American cuisine can be by growing and hunting and cooking over live fire, all things that I've done, but never really all together at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And like I have this book that's got like sauces from like the 1400s, 1600s. I've never read a cookbook in my life. I bought them all. I look at the pictures, but I had this idea that like if I read the cookbook, then I would just rip people off. So like I have no desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come up with my own ideas. And then like if I do something that anyone else starts doing, I stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jonathan Gold said that in a city full of idiosyncratic chefs, I was perhaps the most idiosyncratic. This is all to say I'm getting really inspired by going all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And Escoffier's food might be what I'm looking for right now. Like I was just in Europe. I spent a month in Latvia where Margarita's from.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to find the old cookbooks from like, what were they? Because they are masters of cuisine there. But it's all so old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like the roasts and the sauce work and zero fancy.
Yeah.
Zero fancy. I think the best restaurant in the world will be plated by a young chef and cooked by his grandmother.
Mm.
Food needs to taste like grandma cooked it, but it should be interesting and thoughtful and presented like the grandson or granddaughter.
That's a brilliant way to phrase it. I've been on a big kick lately about we've lost the saucier. We've lost the ability to cook meat. Not that we can't cook meat or fish or anything like that, but we don't cook meat the way we used to. The big roasts and with a farce and it's wrapped in a caul fat or some sort of pastry or whatever. And I think we've lost that. What we traded it for was the aesthetics of plating and the Instagram food. And I think there needs to be a return, or there needs to be a little bit more balance. I shouldn't say return. There needs to be more balance.
All everyone has to do is way over promise, under deliver.
Yeah. What you were saying earlier,
over deliver.
That's great.
Because anytime you're let down by a dish, it's because it under delivered.
Yeah.
And it over promised. I keep going back and forth between having a traditional, I may have a saucier at this restaurant. I'm really considering having I keep going back and forth between a couple different things. One, I have this idea. I think you'll get a kick out of this.
Yeah.
It's so fucking hard to pull off, so I don't know how I'm going to do it. But each chef will be responsible for 3 dishes on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
My job will become at this point the conductor,
mm-hmm.
and each chef, you come over, right? So, hi, I'm Chef so-and-so, and I shot this pig last summer. The next 3 courses are going to showcase this pig. Your job was to design the entirety of your 3. You do everything for your 3 dishes.
Mm.
You come over and go, I was in charge of the, whatever section of the garden. My 3 courses are this. And each chef just has their own 3. And now I work with the whole thing to put the whole thing together. I keep going back and forth between something interesting like that.
I mean, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think that's what needs to happen. Is it all feels the same, or it's all derivative. I hate to say it's all derivative of like Rene or Thomas or Ferran, and then it's variations of that. But something truly original, I think, needs to be done.
That's the thing that's gonna be cool about this restaurant, because I'm gonna own the land.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna own I'm gonna really try to do this will be our masterpiece.
Yeah.
But then I even go back and forth with should I just fucking make it a la carte and make it I don't know. I keep going. I have time.
Yeah.
I have time to consider everything.
When are you thinking?
Probably about a year from now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna take a minute.
Well, Chef, this is fun. It's always good to have you on. For people that where can they listen to the podcast? Where can they eat your food, and where can they follow along?
So Nina and I have a podcast called the Not a Damn Chance Podcast. You can find it at NADC Podcast. It's on the YMH network, Your Mom's House. We have restaurants in 13 cities. So if half of the major cities or a quarter of the major cities, look us up. Sushi by Scratch Restaurants, Pasta Bar. Not a Damn Chance, NADC Burger, and our newest venture, Shokunin. And if you want to keep up with like what's going on and what we're doing next, you can follow my Instagram, which is Philip Frankland Lee, because I post about all of them. And then on the bio, you can get links to, instead of having to remember 7 different links, you can just, do that one.
And if you happen to come on the Chef's PSA podcast, I'm going to take you to lunch at NADC Burger.
Yeah, I guess I'm the new sponsor, so I hope y'all enjoy.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to support the show, you know what to do. Make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. If you listen on Apple, Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think of this episode. Go to chefspsa.com where you get everything, the books, the merch. Go buy a book, go buy a t-shirt, go buy a hoodie, go buy this hat. Beautiful and nice. Go get it. If you want early access to episodes, subscribe to my Substack. I'm going to link them in the show notes. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No spawn drink in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, classes in session.